Welcome to Faith in 5, a weekly video devotional designed to discuss practical spiritual concepts in 5 minutes or less. I'm your host, Mark Vandella. A few summers ago, we had a group of friends over on our deck, and we live on the fourth and fifth floor of a condo building. And so our deck is on top of the building, and it overlooks the river. And so we had some friends over, and we were hanging out, and they had kids around, and so I scooped up one of their kids, and we have like a railing that is at the edge of our deck, and there's like two pieces of wood, like panel, that sits on top of that. And so I had one of their kids, and he was like looking around and wanted to see the river and all those sorts of things. So I set him like feet first, and held his waist to hold him up on the railing. And so I'm up there playing. He's pointing around. We're looking at things, and he'd point at the highway and say car, and point at the river and say water and things like that. And I thought we were having a great time until I turned around. And my friends, both mom and dad, are not a fan of heights. And so when I turned around, they were white. And I had no idea. Like, I was not trying to pull like a scare 'em kind of thing. But so this is the first time they'd been to our house, and they didn't know that there was another deck on the other side of our railing. So there's like, 10 feet between our deck and the edge of the building, but they didn't know that. So they thought that I literally was holding their kid like on the edge of a 5-story building. And they were freaked out, and rightfully so. They had no idea. I felt so bad, and thankfully they have returned to my home, and they have trusted me to hang with their kids again. But I tell you the story because the unique thing about, what we tell people who are afraid of heights when they are up high, what do we tell them, right? We tell them, don't look down. And the unique thing about that is that it's the same advice that we should take or over time be able to give to people who are in difficult times. See, we're in our Mud Puddles series. We're talking about just difficult stuff. And the reason is I was just feeling compelled personally, and in a lot of lives that I walk with, that our faith sometimes is not equipped to go to the deep, dark places, the vulnerable places, the empathy places. We like to push it away or shy away from it. Or we just throw a bunch of empty promises at it. And so we've been talking through this series about things like just giving people space to acknowledge, to talk about those difficult things, and to sit in the mud puddle. Also, that it's okay when we don't have words or we don't have all the answers, to get more comfortable with just silence and not knowing. And then also realize we are not alone in this. Everybody has their stuff. Everybody has a mud puddle, whether they're in it right now or not. And so only after we go through those stages and those steps of difficulty can we get to this spot where we might be able to take advice or hear advice, and that advice is don't look down. See, sometimes when we're in difficult spots, we get stuck in that spot. We get stuck in the rut. We get stuck in the mud puddle. And only after we get this spot where we acknowledge that we're cold and we're wet and that we're not alone in this journey can we start thinking about what's next. What do we do to get out of the mud puddle, to think through what does God want from us, and what is this kind of microcosm, this event mean for the greater part of our lives. And again, I'm not talking about just platitudes that say all things will be great, because those things are typically out of context. But I am a big fan of mantras. I've been studying a lot of brain science and what we're designed to do. And when we ruminate on negativity and we continue to just sit and sit and sit in the mud puddle, we get more comfortable with the mud puddle. And essentially that's us just looking down, and we get stuck and stalled out. And so in these places, I think that it's really important to lead into our faith and again, acknowledge that there are tough times. And then in those tough times, how might we behave? How might we move forward? And I stumbled upon a verse that I just thought was really helpful, because I think oftentimes we look for the one thing that hits us and moves us forward. But this really matched for me this don't look down mentality. It's Romans 12:12. It says, "Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. And see, it's in a list, so oftentimes I think that it's like, hey, when we are hopeful, let's be joyful. And when we're in difficult things, let's be patient. And then, also let's just continue to pray. But in this don't look down, or when we're sitting in the mud puddle, I think that all three of them exist in the same exact time. The best thing, the don't look down, is that we have hope, even in the midst of terrible, wet, cold, horrible things. We also can exhibit patience at the same time that we're hopeful, that we are also getting more comfortable with just the difficulty and the realities that is the truth, and I'm afraid, and in this fear I'm not going to rush it, and I'm not going to give into it. And then what would we do? How would we help to not look down and just ruminate on the difficulty? Well, we'd spend some time with God. We would talk to God. We would say these things, these mantras like don't look down, don't look down. Or a biblical mantra of joy, patience, and prayer. Joy, patience, and prayer. Or hope, patience, and prayer. Whichever of those words really resonate with you. And that's how, in these really difficult times, we can survive them. Because difficult times are typically a season, sometimes very long seasons, but they're typically a season. And so the challenge in our faith is that how do we bring our faith in these difficult things? And again, not just jump to the conclusion of everything's going to be okay, but how do we sit with all three things at the same time? Joy and hope, patience in difficult times, and regular prayer and conversation with God, even when we're mad, frustrated, and scared. This week in your faith, try to bring all three together. Bring hope, patience, and prayer together for yourself and also for other people. Thanks for watching Faith in 5. If you like what you see, please like and share. If you're interested in making a donation to our ministry, please click the link below.